Alright, let's talk about Don Juan. This excerpt is like the excerptiest excerpt that has ever excerpted. If you've ever played this one in an actual orchestra, everyone has this first page memorized, and then after that everyone freaking falls apart on page 2 and beyond. You know, as you start this in this section, it's just like a free-for-all. The conductor sort of does something and then everyone just like panics and plays the first 7 notes as quickly as they can. It's not necessary for us to know these notes as well as we all know them because we have to audition with them. I don't understand who said that the key to playing in orchestras is knowing this one tone poem. It seems like there are all these code words. It's almost like just an excerpt to prove that you're in the know. You've received all the knowledge about like the right way to play this excerpt. I'm just going to go through and point out all these secret little spots that you just gotta play in a certain way. Make sure that it's really obvious that quarter note, eighth note, people make such a big deal about this. Like, God forbid we think that you don't know that there's a eighth note after the quarter note. It can sort of sound like a parody of itself at a certain point. Then there's this guy. Eighth note rest right there. And then right at the end, there's one last thing to not forget. Accent on the second to last note. That's really only the beginning. Every single accent, every dynamic marking, everything on the page you have to know like the back of your hand. I like to think about things that run against the grain of the most easy narrative about Don Juan in this excerpt, that you know, there's a lot of machismo, there's a lot of virtuosity. You have to demonstrate this character that, you know, probably would be Me Too'd in the present day. I prefer to think more about the ways that this excerpt is most Mozartian, or the ways that it's actually quite lyrical and beautiful and not so like intense and like grab you by the collar. At least in my opinion, when people play it in that sort of way, it doesn't appeal to me at all. A couple technical things that I think are helpful. First, there is this beginning figure. When you play it in a section, it just gets sort of jumbled together, but in an audition, I think it should be very clear. So I like to space out these first 7 notes with a little bit more breadth. I think it's helpful to think about going to the 4th note, so this first full group of 16th notes. Especially when you're practicing it, adding that emphasis can help move the line along and can help avoid this tendency to sort of like smack the downbeat, garble the next 6 notes, and then find your way up on that top beat eventually. You get to do all different sorts of bow strokes and bow stylings in this excerpt. One of my favorite parts is right after the opening statement, this sort of interjection. And I think that you can just take a very risky bow stroke and use a lot of bow and try to make it very wild and sort of devil-may-care in that moment. And then this is contrasted immediately with this much more burning stroke. Where you're just relentlessly in the string, definitely in control, never screaming, a lot of ardor, a lot of passion in that moment. This contrasts to later on, we get to a much more spiky stroke, so to speak. Now, I've heard and seen some disagreement about whether that stroke is on or off. Personally, I sort of can't resist playing it a little bit off. I think it sounds nice to get that blocky diction in the middle of this excerpt after all this sustain. The music likes it, in my opinion. I prefer not to use this excerpt to work through any pent-up rage that I haven't processed fully. I want to know why nobody's talking about what you do with your metronome when you get to the 3/4 measure. There are different options, none of them good. From here, that's one way, but you're adding a beat. What about? So if you have a different solution, you can leave that in the comments below. I'm trying to be like a real YouTuber here, asking people to comment. How to do this run? If anyone can figure it out, let me know, because I still screw it up all the time. What I'm thinking about when I'm, going down the old Rainbow Road on the way up to the high D, putting a lot of bow in the first notes in each of these groups. That's both to give the music some structure, to make sure that you're playing with a good sound. It's also to prevent me from speeding up, which I really want to do whenever I get there. I also use this time to get really settled in my body so that I feel comfortable before I have to do the acrobatic move at the end. Don't forget to keep counting, because you have to come back in pretty soon after that half note up there, or quarter note, whatever it is. Personally, I find the drop to piano about 3/4 of the way down the page of this excerpt to be the hardest part. And what I'm thinking about to accomplish it is staying on the string, initiating the new stroke with just a little bit of finger action, and a couple well-placed prayers to God beforehand, never harmed anyone. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, and you have to live with that failure and just find some way to cope. There's a lot more that I could say. I know people go through measure by measure in this excerpt and explain how every little thing is played, and at a certain point you gotta just do that on your own. I hope that this gives some people some additional ideas of how to prepare this excerpt, and good luck. Yeah, really, good luck.